How many of you know Marv? Yeah, quite a few.
Not yet.
Not yet? Well, he is a really good-looking guy, by the way. Okay, just to let you ladies know. So Marv Hagedorn, he's a retired Navy Chief Warrant Officer who served from 1974 to 1994. He specialized in Navy intelligence and cryptology. Marv has spent over 12 years serving Idaho citizens in the state legislature, 6 years in the House, followed by 6 years in the Senate. He was appointed as the Chief Administrator for Idaho's Division of Veteran Services in July of 2018. Congratulations, Marv. In 2010, this is very important because I remember when he established this, he co-founded the Waikan Foundation, which is a nationally recognized transition program for wounded and disabled veterans. It gives them education. It pays for our wounded and disabled veterans to go to college, to establish a career. So let me just, without saying any more, Marv, come on over. This is an incredible man and a veteran himself.
Thank you, Sue. First, let's give a hand to Sue and all the volunteers here. Seriously, thank you for putting all of this together. I'm really fortunate to be here. I keep flunking retirement. I retired from the Navy over 25 years ago now, and thought, yeah, I'm gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna go fishing. And after about 30 days, it was actually just 3 weeks, I was going to start raving mad. And I just couldn't do that. I grew up in northern Idaho, just between Moscow and a little town of Potlatch. And we grew up on a little farm in between, and I got in all sorts of trouble. I learned about dynamite, I learned about all kinds of cool things in high school, and was asked to join the military. And so I joined the military, and fortunately I had some senior enlisted folks, chiefs, senior chiefs, master chiefs, kick my butt into adulthood, and I think they did a pretty good job because I didn't get in trouble after that. So I was interested to know that Mitzi's dad is a CW04, retired CW04. I had a meeting with the Secretary of the VA last week. He was here in Boise, and I had about 10 minutes with him. He had a little bit of time, so we just sat down and were BSing. And he asked me what my story was, so I gave him a quick rundown. And he looked at me, and he said, and you got to understand, the Secretary of the VA came from the Navy Military Personnel Command. He was in charge of the Navy's Personnel Command, so he understands Navy. And he looks at me and he said, you were a chief warrant officer in the Navy, and then you served in the legislature? I said, yeah, it took a little bit of communication skills changing and yeah, influence changing. You don't influence people the same way you do in the legislature as you do in the military. That doesn't happen. So I'm really fortunate because I keep flunking retirement. After I left the legislature, I ran for lieutenant governor, and fortunately I lost my primary. And the Governor Otter, appointed me to run the Division of Veteran Services. Now, the Division of Veteran Services, let me see if I can operate this thing. Nope. Okay. Gonna need some help here. There we go. The Division of Veteran Services, let me tell you first off why we have divisions in Idaho. Our Constitution only allows the state of Idaho to have 20 departments. And we did that a long time ago, people well before I got there, did that to make sure our government didn't grow too much and get too big. So we can only have 20 departments. So what we have is we have 19 departments and then a department of divisions. The military division, as a matter of fact, our National Guard and all those folks, there's 1,200 of them, they're a division. Because we don't have enough department, we don't have any department names left. So anyway, so we are, boy, that doesn't show up very good, but so I'll just wing it here. We are a division, the Division of Veteran Services. What we are not is the Veterans Administration. We have nothing to do with the VA except our folks are the liaison between you, all of us veterans, and the Veterans Administration. And every state has some form of Division of Veteran Services. So if you're not from Idaho and you're just visiting here, your state has a counterpart. I have a counterpart in that state. And the reason that these divisions or departments, and there's some states in Massachusetts, the guy is a secretary. In other states that are director. Here, I'm a chief administrator. But we all do the same function. The VA, after World War II, got a great deal of tax dollars, and those tax dollars were to help veterans transition from World War II back into the private sector. So they had a bunch of different programs. The GI Bill, the precursor to what we now know as the GI Bill, started then. And the VA found that they did not have the manpower to reach all of the veterans throughout the nation, so they enlisted the states to help them. And they did that by saying, states, we have a whole bunch of money here for, let's say, compensation for benefits for medical compensation. Or we have the GI Bill here. And your veterans that come to your state will spend this money in your state. So every state created my counterpart, and that person created their own division or whatever that is to help connect veterans in their state with those funds that were available from the VA. In our case, we have about 346 people in my agency that take care of veterans, and whether they're in the home or whatever we do, and I'll explain some of that. But we connect the veterans with those funds. And in Idaho, the VA brings in roughly $1 billion. The VA spends roughly $1 billion in Idaho. That's about 1.3% of our GDP. We have, let me see if I can move this forward and we can read it a little bit. I'm not going to read you these slides because I can't even see them. But let me tell you about what we do. We run 3 state veterans homes. And the guys in the back, my friends from the Boise State Veterans Home, could you raise your hands? Okay. These guys and gals live in the veterans home here in Boise. And this home in Boise is a skilled nursing home. It's 55 years old. We are working on plans right now to replace that. The replacement cost estimate is going to be between $95 and $110 million to replace it. I have the land designated already, and it will be up by the old HP campus. We've got a 20-acre hayfield up there, and that hayfield will soon be, hopefully in the next 5 years, our new state veterans home. And the new veterans homes, if you've ever been to our Boise facility, it's a great facility. It's 55 years old. And the folks that work there take really good care of it. It's a great home for Doc and Larry and Mike and all the folks that live there right now. But it could be better. They all live with a roommate. The new home requirements, every room or every veteran has or will get a single room. They'll have their own head, Navy speak for laboratory, and we have it set up where we'll have small neighborhoods. We'll have like 16 rooms in one area, and those 16 rooms will share a small kitchen, living room, dining room, sitting area, TV room, those kinds of things. And we'll have what we call neighborhoods. And all the neighborhoods will have their own little, basically this is your house. And so you'll have your living room and kitchen and all of those things. Then we'll have grassy areas, a small yard that everyone can go visit and enjoy. We're also going to have, between all the neighborhoods, we're going to have a main street that's going to connect everything. And it will also connect the main facility where we'll have physical therapy care, we'll have nursing care, we'll have a pharmacy, we'll have a chapel, we'll have a sports bar, we'll have all kinds of goodies. A bistro, a little coffee place. So it'll be like our little downtown. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm 63 years old, and one of these days I'm going to end up in this place, so I'm making sure it's going to be damn nice. So if I do, it'll be good for you. We just got word week before last that we were fully funded now for our 4th home that will be built up in Post Falls, Idaho, up in northern Idaho. Yeah, that's really good news. Very good news. It's going to be about an 85,000 square foot facility. It will house 64 veterans, and we'll break ground on that in the spring. Our drawings are about 50% complete right now. Our design is about 50% complete. That's going to be about a $50 million facility. It's going to be gorgeous. It's surrounded by mountains and trees, and it's going to be a really, really nice facility. We've got a lot of people already want to get in line to get into that facility. So we have not only the Boise home, we're going to have the Post Falls home, we have a home in Lewiston, and we have a home in Pocatello. Both of those homes are pretty close to being identical. They're about 25 years old. Very, very nice homes. They have 67 beds, and are just really, really nice facilities. One of the things that we pride ourselves in, skilled nursing homes, typically we call a census, or how many people live in those homes, the population. On average in Idaho, the population is about 61%. Our population is between 89 and 92%. And we have a 4 to 5 star rating for our homes, which is, our Lewiston home is the only home in Idaho that has a 5-star rating. Of all of the homes in Idaho, private sector and veterans homes, the only home in Idaho that has a 5-star rating. So all of our homes are really, really well run. We get top of the line administrators to run these homes, and we've got great people. Well, Doc, how good are the people that take care of you at the home? We've got excellent people that take care of our folks at the home, and they'll bring it. You guys are doing stuff all the time. I'm jealous of these guys because the home is right across the street from my office, and I look out the window, and they're always getting on the bus to go somewhere. They're always going fishing, or they're always doing something fun, and so it's a great place to live. It's a great place to live. So that is one of the things that we do that surprised me. When I got out of the legislature, the homes are self-sustaining. In other words, we run a business. We're running a business of skilled nursing facility. And those facilities have to bring in enough money through the VA or Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance to pay for the veterans who live in that home. We've got to bring enough money in to keep the doors open, to pay the electrical bills, to pay salary, all of those things. And so that's about a $30 million business every year that we've got to run. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a great challenge, and I love being involved with that. So you can see I went through all of the stuff there on that slide, I'm sure. Now this slide is the Office of Veterans Advocacy. The Office of Veterans Advocacy is a classy name for, this is a group of service officers. Most of them are, well, all of them are all veterans. And is what they do is they fill out all the paperwork for you for claims for compensation, medical compensation, or to connect you with different benefits that the VA has for all of us. Your disability compensation, our service officers, that's their job, is to chase that for you. Our service officers, the Idaho State service officers, go to training every year. They're better trained than any other service officers that exist in the state of Idaho. We send them to training every year. In fact, our service officers are so well trained that the Veterans Regional Office here in Boise has an office just for our service officers. So when you go into the VA's office to see a service officer, I think they have 2 We have 6 of the state service officers in that federal building. They have made room for our service officers because they do that good of a job. If you have not seen a service officer since you got out of the military, and I don't care if that was when you left Korea or when you left Omaha or Italy for World War II, if you have not seen a service officer, you need to see one. And you need to see if there's any benefits that you are not receiving that you earned during your service. And our service officers are really easy to get a hold of. Remember this, if you're on the internet, veterans.idaho.gov. Pretty simple, veterans.idaho.gov. And that will get you to all of the services that we are the liaison for. We have service officers, we have 2 service officers in Caldwell. We have about 6 service officers right on the VA campus in Boise. We have a service officer in Twin Falls. We have 2 service officers in Pocatello. We have 2 service officers in Lewiston. We have 2 service officers up in Post Falls. All of those service officers move around and take care of folks in all of the counties. If you know someone in Clark County, well, there's only 5,000 people in Clark County, so if you know somebody there, that's a pretty small county, and so that's pretty good. But if you know somebody in Clark County and they need a service officer, they need to talk to a service officer, have them call the folks in Twin Falls or in Pocatello. They will make a house call. I have service officers all the time that are on the road making a house call to folks that can't come into the office to see them. They will go see you, they'll help you fill out your paperwork, they'll make sure it gets filed, they will track it for you. If you don't agree with the VA's result, they will turn in the paperwork to the disagreement paperwork. They will follow that all through the whole process to make sure that you're taken care of and you get every opportunity to get every benefit that you have earned from the VA. There's 18 of them. They all work their tails off. And every year I work with the legislature to try and get a couple more because we have a lot of veterans in this state, and 18 service officers can't reach all of our veterans. Right now, the VA thinks that we have about 122,000 veterans in Idaho. I completely disagree with that. I know we've got more than that. But there's no way for us to measure how many veterans we have. When you got out of the military, you didn't tell anybody where you were going to land. You didn't tell anybody that you moved. We're all just vagabonds and just move wherever we go. And so there is no place to check in if you're a veteran. So we don't know if you're here. So the census will not have a question on the form that says, are you a veteran? The VA does a study once a year and a formula to figure out where the veterans are, but there's no census of veterans in Idaho. Right now, the VA believes we have 122,000. Our service officers have reached 47,000 of those veterans. And they're scheduled every day, every hour, every day to talk to a veteran. So if you know a veteran, please connect them with the service officer. If you haven't seen a service officer, remember, veterans.idaho.gov. The next thing we do is we run the state cemetery. How many people have been up to the state cemetery? It is a gorgeous place. We have people from, my counterparts from all over the U.S. come to Idaho to see how our state cemetery was built and how it's operated. Because it's a great example of what should be done in the state. State cemeteries are a little bit different than national cemeteries in one aspect only. Your spouse, the spouse of a veteran, the VA does not pay for the internment of a spouse of a veteran in a state cemetery. In a national cemetery, they will. We're working on getting that rectified. But right now, that is the only difference between a state cemetery and a national cemetery. All the markers, all the processes, everything is exactly, we run it under all the same regulations and processes. So our state cemetery, you'll go up and you'll see the markers are all lined up. They have to be within 3/8 of an inch of each other, lined up. After every winter, we've got folks out there straightening up the markers to make sure, because the ground freezing and thawing will just slightly move those markers around a little bit. And they work hard at that. I have 9 people that run that state cemetery in Boise. They do 800 internments every year. And they mow the lawn. And they straighten the markers. And they put the caskets in the ground. And they do all of that stuff. And the reason that they can do that is because I have a retired Master Sergeant Ranger, James Earp, who runs that crew of 8 people. And they do everything every day just like clockwork. I went over there to help them one day just to learn what they were doing. We were putting caskets in the ground. And they weren't talking or saying anything. They were just kind of doing stuff. And I was like moving around just to get out of their way, because they know exactly what they do. They're just a great group of people. Turnover is almost zero. I think the most junior guy out there has been out there for 7 years. He's the new guy. And so they're just a great group of people. There's a bunch of folks like here in the Warhawk that volunteer to go out and help every day to do internments. They do 3 to 4 internments every day, 5 days a week. And so if you have the opportunity, you want to volunteer to do something to help, that's a great group of people there too. And that's a wonderful place. We just found out last October that the VA was going to grant us some money to build a new state cemetery in Blackfoot. We're going to break ground on that cemetery this October. So our plans are completed. Everything is lined up. We've got our contractor. We're going to break that ground in October out in Blackfoot. And we're going to, initially we have 40 acres out there. We're going to develop the first 15 acres, and it's going to be very similar to what we have here in Boise. It's going to be a beautiful cemetery. But it's going to allow all those folks in eastern Idaho a place for their veterans. It'll be closer to them. There's also a national cemetery that's going to start in Buell. The National Cemetery is a program that's, they have a small rural national cemetery program. It'll be a very small cemetery in Buell. That will be a national cemetery that the feds will run, or the VA will run there. One of the things that struck me that Sue was talking about, the program that we do here at the Warhawk, where we have and what's it called, Sue, where you come in and basically tell your veterans your military story? The Veterans History Project program. Yes, and all of those, I've come in and done mine, and they all go, they record them and they all go on CD, and they're going back in the Library of Congress. One of the things that the National Cemetery Administration is doing in the VA is they have a program now that you can take your cell phone or your tablet and walk up to a marker and take a picture of that marker, or it will scan it, and it will come up with the history of that veteran. And all of the national cemeteries, so they just started it just about a month ago, so it's not populated yet. But there is a mechanism where the families of those veterans will be able to store that information, like in the Library of Congress. And the objective is that a veteran never dies. A veteran will always be with us, so they'll be able to go, and that's another reason why all of the markers they have to be very, almost identical. There's only a few differences that you can have. It's so this program can scan that marker, come up with that name, and then you can find out the history of who that veteran was. So that is just starting. The state cemeteries, I've asked James to find out when they're going to include the state cemeteries and all of that. So we're going to have our database all ready, and I'll get that all set up so we can put everybody's history and associate that history with those markers. So when our great-great-great-great-great-grandkids come up and say, what did Grandpa do? They'll scan it and they'll pull up Grandpa's or Grandma's history, and they'll associate it with that marker forever. Veteran never dies. I think that's a pretty cool program. One of the things that, again, I didn't realize when I was in the legislature that the Division of Veteran Services does is we approve all of the educational courses for the GI Bill. So we have 6 higher education organizations here in Idaho State, like BSU, University of Idaho, those types of things. There's over 3,000 courses that we have to audit every year to make sure that those courses meet the VA standards. So when a soldier, sailor, or Coast Guardsman goes in for that course, the GI Bill will pay for that particular course. Another thing that we do, the GI Bill also pays for OJT and apprenticeship programs. So we have been reaching out to businesses. Swift Trucking, as an example, up in Lewiston. Swift Trucking is, we all know truck drivers, there's a huge shortage of truck drivers everywhere in the U.S. Idaho has a shortage of about 1,600 truck drivers every day. So we're trying to build new truck drivers. Swift started a truck driving school up in Lewiston. And then they have it's a 3-month truck driving school, then it's a 3-month OJT program. So when a veteran comes into that truck driving school, they will be paid by the GI Bill to go through that truck driving school and then go through the 3 months of the OJT program. We have a program in Caldwell where a company needed someone that could run a CAD/CAM machine. They could program it and then cut metal stuff out on this machine. So we have an OJT and apprenticeship program for that. We have an OJT and apprenticeship program for learning how to fly. We have almost 300 programs now in Idaho that are skilled-based programs, that are OJT or apprenticeship programs where veterans can come in and go quickly through a certification program and then go to work. So our focus has really been on trying to make more and more of those skilled OJT programs and get the veterans connected with those. So I have 3 people that run all over the state trying to work with different businesses and getting those programs set up and approved so the GI Bill can pay the veteran to go to it. The business can pay the veteran a little bit less to get them into the program, so it's good for the business. They can train them the way they want them. Once they get out of their training, then they pay them the normal rate. The GI Bill is done paying for the veteran, so everybody wins. Veteran gets training, they get money from the GI Bill, and the company wins because they get a trained person that they know knows their business. And last is what we do. This is the money side of it that I started talking about before, where our service officers, as an example, just with disability compensation that they work on every day, our service officers bring in about it's about $450 million every year in disability compensation. And that number keeps growing because we keep finding more veterans and getting them more disability compensation. In total, the VA spends about $1 billion here every year, and that's a huge part of our GDP. And when I start talking about that to the legislators, I didn't know that when I was in the legislature. I had no idea that that kind of money was coming into Idaho from the VA. But that's a good thing. It's a good thing because that's our tax dollars that we pay out back to DC that are coming back into Idaho. So it's a good thing that we're working on getting those tax dollars back. Okay, it's our tax dollars and some money that the Federal Reserve kind of printed up and throws at the kitty. But still, it's our tax dollars that are coming back. And it also means a lot to legislators who represent you, because those tax dollars that's your money. And it's coming back in to do things that you want them to do, that your legislators want them to do. Our service officers, for every dollar I spend on a service officer, we get $481 back. That's a huge return on investment. And when I go to the legislature and say, I just want 2 more service officers, and I say, for every dollar you're going to spend of Idaho tax dollars to get another service officer, put them on our payroll, we're going to get $481 back, it's a no-brainer to them. But we didn't know that. Last 2 years ago, when I was serving, I had no idea that was the ROI on service officers. Otherwise, I would have been investing more in those service officers to get those dollars back. So, money is a huge part of what we do, and connecting that money with the veterans and the services that they've earned is what our function in life is. And so with that, I would love to open this whole thing up for questions, and please ask away. Yes, ma'am.
The new facility that's going to be built. The new facility that's being built, how many people will that accommodate?
The new facility that is going to be in Post Falls is going to be, that will accommodate 64 people. Now, the census is important. What the VA believes we have here is important because they put a limitation on the number of beds that we're allowed to run in the state of Idaho. And so the VA pays 65% of building that facility. So the state pays 35%. And it was about 10 years ago, Representative Eskridge and I put some money away, about $20 million away, in a special account, just so because we knew we were going to need some matching money for a facility up in northern Idaho. And so we used that $20 million as our 35% to match that facility that's going to be built up there. Right now, the VA limits us to 348 beds total that we can have in our state. And so between we've got about 150 beds in Boise, 67 beds in Lewiston, 67 beds in Pocatello, and then we'll have 64 beds up there. We're pushing the upper limits of what they're going to allow us to have. So when we replace the Boise home, right now, because of our census, we can only replace it with the exact same number of beds we have in a Boise home with the home here. Now, I know we have more veterans than 150 that we're going to be able to build beds for. But right now, we have that limitation placed on us.
I thought your description of what the new one is going to look like sounds wonderful. What my question is that this entire thing is for both female and male veterans. They will be all using the same facilities. I mean, because we have a growing number of women veterans in this state. So how is that going to work?
We have right now in the Boise home, I think we have 4 or 5 female veterans there. Mary is our Marine veteran. I think Karen is Navy. We've got veterans in our homes right now. Our homes are also eligible, or spouses of veterans are also eligible to go in our homes. And so in Pocatello, we have 2 couples, married couples that live in the Pocatello home. And so, and it works very well because they both need skilled nursing care. And so we accommodate everybody that we can.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yes.
Thank you for all you do, Marv. You mentioned the dollar amount of disability compensation that comes in annual, and I didn't get that number.
It's about $435 million a year in disability compensation. And that's just in disability compensation. That's not retirement. And I know there's been some questions about taxing military retirement and taking the state income tax off military retirement. Different kind of money. Disability compensation is non-taxable in the state of Idaho and the federal as well. So, and if anybody's curious about the not taxing state retirement, military retirement, a lot of us have been working on that for a number of years. The roadblock we've always run into is it's going to cost the state, and this is how legislators think of it. If I get $100 in every year as a legislator to spend, 65 of those $100 are going to go to education. About 30 of those dollars are going to go to health and welfare. And then all the rest of those dollars are left for everything else. So if I'm going to tax or take the taxes off of military retirement, that's going to take about $20 million or about $2 out of that 100 that I get out of the bucket. So what don't I fund if I take that $20 million out of the bucket by not taxing military retirement? And that's always been the argument that we've had, and we've not been able to figure out, what are we not going to pay for?
Oh, just make more money.
Right.
Anybody made a DC to the press?
Other questions?
Okay, we'll take one more, and then Marv, you'll stick around, right?
Yeah.
So please come up and talk with him, and yes, Mary.
If there's more applicants than beds, how do you triage that?
That's a good question. The question is basically, we have, say we have 150 beds in Boise, and we have at all of our homes, we always have kind of what they call a waiting list. But typically when people need skilled nursing, you don't wait for skilled nursing, right? When you need skilled nursing, you need someone that can help you with your medications. You need someone that can help you bathe and eat and all of those kinds of things. So if they can't get into our facility and they're a veteran, they'll go find another facility to get into. We do have people in other facilities that are waiting to get into our facility. And so that's kind of how we triage that. We try and bring those folks in the best. We try and keep it at 100%, but I can't. The reason we can't keep it at 100%, remember I mentioned those star ratings, the 4-star and the 5-star ratings? Part of the measurement in order to get those ratings is you have to have so many hours per patient day for skilled nursing, or for nursing care, and for CNA care. So I have to have so many nurses on staff all the time to meet those metrics of keeping those patient hours up every day. And if I can't keep that 4 hours a day per patient just for nursing, I can't make it to the level of being a 4-star. And right now there's this huge shortage of just medical caregivers in the nation. And in 10 years, we're going to be 2.5 million people short of caregivers in our nation. So right now, I have to pay a premium to get more nurses on board to come work at our homes, or CNAs. And that means I have to pay more, so I have to balance, do I pay in electricity, or do I pay more skilled nurses? And so right now, we have nurses and CNAs to get us to the level of 90 to 94%. And then we have turnover that kind of keeps the rest of it open. So that's kind of how, it's a great business to run. It's very challenging. So thank you very much. I certainly appreciate all the questions and all of you being here. And thank you for your service.
Thanks so much, Marv. There's our famous warm-up coin. Thank you for being here. It was really great. So, okay, folks, well, enjoy the rest of the morning, and we'll see you next month when we'll probably really be in the fall season.